Same Broncos, new year? Let's talk about that. And I'm not talking about the 17-16 start like they had last year, like they just had on Sunday. I'm talking about the injuries again. We've got new year, new crew to break it down. Todd Davis, Alexis Perry joining me today. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. I think I'm doing well. How are you doing, Todd? I don't mean to speak for both of us.
No, I'm doing good. I mean, it could be better. If we didn't have these injuries, I think I would feel better, but hopefully we'll figure it out.
The hoodoo voodoo that you were talking about the other day. Sunday's post game, he mentioned the hoodoo voodoo, and it's starting to feel really real again.
Is that the alien talk? Is that what you're referring to? Because Todd's kind of into the aliens right now.
Aliens are real. Maybe that's the reason why we keep getting injured. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It feels like there's something every year. I feel like we have problems with injuries, and every year we can't escape the injury bug. And usually it's some of our best players, and once again, it's happened again with some of our best guys. You never want to see anybody injured, but it sucks so much when you talk about starters on both sides of the ball with multiple injuries.
And maybe does Broncos country owe Nathaniel Hackett maybe a little apology? Because last year he didn't play anyone in the preseason so that the Broncos would be healthy throughout the season. And then it was pretty much this exact time when it's like, okay, Justin Simmons is hurt. You've already lost some guys for the season already. And everyone was like, well, maybe that wasn't the route to go. Maybe Nathaniel Hackett should have played guys so they were ready. Maybe it just doesn't matter what you do in the preseason.
I don't think anybody owes Nathaniel Hackett an apology, to be really honest.
That's true. That was probably taking it too far.
Yeah, I think we suffered enough as a fan base, and we don't owe him an apology, even if we do like him enough as a human being. It is weird, though. Like, you have to – it begs the question of what is it with the Denver Broncos specifically that this early in the year they're always hurt. And it doesn't matter if they play in the preseason or not, that there's always big injuries to big name guys. And like Todd said, yeah, of course it doesn't matter. Like, you feel bad for a guy no matter if he's a starter, if he's a practice squad guy when they go down. But it's just odd to me that it's always these guys that the Broncos are leaning on or about to lean on. And it kind of like, is George Payton cursed?
George Payton now. We're putting it on him.
Wow.
Like, I'm just saying, is he cursed? I don't think it's his fault. I just think, like, he makes a decision. We'll get to this in a second. Like, you trade Albert O to the Eagles, and then all of a sudden the guy that you were leaning on goes down. So I know we're going to get into this, but I feel for these guys. I feel for this team. It stings.
In this offseason, the Broncos did everything they thought to get rid of this. They brought in Bo Lowry, who's supposed to be this injury genius to eliminate the injuries. And he's even called like the hamstring god or something like that because he knows how to deal with hamstring injuries. Jerry Jeudy misses the first game with a hamstring injury. Now Greg Dulcich is going to miss a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. Is it the Mile High Air? Who knows what it is? But Alexis, you mentioned how it seems like it's guys that the Broncos are going to be counting on to have a big role. Caden Sterns, guy who was going to be a big role, and Greg Dulcich, both are going to miss significant time. Unfortunately for Caden, he's going to miss the entire season when he was due for a breakout year. And Greg Dulcich now going to miss multiple weeks, maybe going to be placed on the short-term IR, which would mean he misses 4 weeks. Just, it's tough, especially when you look at where these guys were supposed to be on this team.
Yeah, and you look at the things that you needed at that position. You know, Manhurts, he's a good tight end. I think Troutman's a good tight end too, but I don't think defenses fear them like they did Greg Dulcich. Like, his pass catching ability, his route running ability, you lose that asset completely. So I think you have to find ways to maybe stay out of 12 personnel now. I think the first game we were 12 personnel, 13 personnel, very heavy. I think now, hopefully with Jerry Jeudy coming back, you're really going to see like one tight end on the field for most times. And then when it's 2, maybe it's more run. Maybe you don't throw out a 12 personnel when you finally get in it. So we're definitely missing that route running tight end because that's just another stress that we put on defense. And we talk about weapons. We really haven't had weapons like we wanted to, and now we lost another one.
And I think for this team, it was supposed to be tight end by committee, right? Like, all of these guys had really specific strengths. Like Chris Manhurts, he's your blocking tight end, right? Troutman's your big body. But like we saw on Sunday, like, he doesn't really get those yards after the catch, yards after contact.
A little Noah Fant to him.
Yeah, a little Noah Fant to him. So that's where Greg Dulcich came in. He was your playmaker. He was the speedy guy who, big bodied, but was gonna get those yards after the catch. And now it's like you look at this team and you're like, okay, and Nate Atkins, no offense. Like, he's just probably not ready. We all know that tight ends take a minute to develop.
He was also an offensive tackle in high school, showing he's more of the blocking tight end than the receiving tight end.
Exactly. So when you're looking for a receiving tight end, we just had one here in Denver who we all, after the final preseason game, we were preaching. We're like, keep Albert O on this team. And what's funny, we didn't bring it up at any point, was that Greg Dulcich has been dealing with this nagging hamstring injury for a while now. And did we just have too much confidence that this hamstring injury was going to go away? And we'll talk about this with Jerry Jeudy, I'm sure, in a little bit. Hamstrings are weird. We talked about this the other day. And it's like, could you really bank on a guy coming back and never dealing with that injury again when it's a hammy?
Yeah, and we've seen it for multiple players throughout the years here, specifically KJ Hamler.
Yep.
When a guy that relies on speed, now Greg does it in a little bit different way than KJ because he's bigger, but when a guy relies on speed and has hamstring issues, you kind of have to bank on it coming back at some point. You cross your fingers that it won't, but you do want that backup role. And so you look, who's the next best receiving tight end the Broncos have? It's Adam Troutman, and he just had as much of a game as you could have from him from a receiving perspective. He led the Broncos in receptions. He had 5 receptions, so they really relied on him, and he went for 32 yards. I mean, that's kind of the threat that he is. Maybe at some point this season he has a 5-catch game that goes for 70 yards, but it's way more likely going to be 5 catches for 32 yards, and he's just, catching the short passes that Russ was really looking for. And so you're right. Who's the deep threat? It was Alberto. I
feel like trade should have like a return policy. Like, if we don't use the picks that we got in time, I think we should be able to trade back and get our money back because we could really use Alberto O right now. Like you said, we have no really threat for the deep ball at tight end, and everybody's going to harp on what Courtland is doing and what Jerry Jeudy is doing. But the more threats you have, the more defensive coordinators can't see him against everybody. So that's how people get open. And for right now, everybody's going to double Courtland and try to make somebody else beat us. Like, it's tough. It's a tough situation that we're in. So hopefully we find a May. Hopefully, we can go 0-1 personnel, have one running back and the rest wide receivers. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out.
I mean, he's big enough.
He's big enough. I think what's really funny about what you just said is, like, did we ever think that we'd be sitting here being like, I wish we had Alberto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he proved enough throughout training camp and the preseason that he was making strides in the right direction. Yeah. And I think that's why Philly's so excited right now, is because they're like, the upside to this guy is absolutely unbelievable. But when you think about the downside, okay, so what? Like, what'd they give away for him? Practically nothing.
They flipped 6th and 7th round picks. And like we talked about when the trade happened, if the Eagles are really good in 2 years, that's going to be a later of the 6th round pick. If the Broncos are bad, we hope that's not the case, but if they're bad, that's going to be the beginning of the 7th round. So it's going to be a couple of spots that you flipped. Exactly.
For a guy who has so much upside and was taking strides in the right direction. So I'm just bummed, I think. I'm bummed that we don't have Alberto on this team right now, because this week specific, like, this would be a week where it's like, all right, it's the Alberto show, let's go.
Yep. And now Sean is stuck in between a rock and a hard place because he doesn't have that tight end now. But also, Todd, something you said, which I think the Broncos have to do. They have to have more explosive plays, so you have to have more receivers on the field now, because Greg Dulcich was your explosive threat as a tight end. But that puts Sean in a tough place, because what's he want to do? He wants to run the ball with Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. Now, maybe week 1 showed us he doesn't want to run the ball as much as he has been telling us for 6 months, because they did throw the ball, 34 times compared to 22 rushing attempts. So maybe going with more wide receivers he's actually more okay with than we thought for so many months. But you have to, because what did you lack on Sunday? Explosive plays. Putting Chris Manhertz on the field to be a receiving threat, that's not going to lead to explosive plays. What you have to do is you got to get more of these receivers on the field. And obviously, if Jerry Jeudy's back this week, which I expect him to be back, he was very close to going on Sunday. And I think ultimately the Broncos made the right decision to pull him back to make sure he's okay for the future, not just that first game. But you got to get Marvin Mims on the field. Marvin Mims is in terms of just a deep threat, not 50-50 balls, but just pulling the defense back. That's Marvin Mims. He's your speed guy. He played 17 plays, 27% of the offensive plays for a guy like Sean Payton, who's trusted rookie receivers in the past. That kind of, I'm scratching my head after that, especially because you needed explosive plays. That's got to be the guy that's on the field more.
Yeah, I think so. He's a good player, and so he'll use him more. I'm interested to see how he fits into now the running game, because if you go back and look at the film, there's a lot of powers and whams and stuff that requires two lead blockers, either a fullback and your tight end or two tight ends. So I'm interested now. Maybe they go back to the option game and give Russ the ball in his hands and allow him to run some more, so that you can have 11 personnel on the field, because that doesn't require more than, Gervonta and Russ to be able to get a good run from that. But we'll see what happens. But I definitely think Marvin Mims needs to be on the field, because they are lacking in shots. And him, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland, Sutton, I think that's a pretty good starting wide receiver lineup.
Do the Broncos explore KJ Hamler? Bringing KJ back.
So the issue with KJ in training camp was that he had this heart disease that he found right when training camp started. And the Broncos moved on from him because KJ said he needed some time to focus on that. And they said it was going to be about 6 weeks. Well, this is about 6 weeks' time now. And KJ Hamler yesterday took a visit to the Colts, presumably showing that he's ready to go. He's ready to sign with the team, ready to go. When you look at KJ Hamler, what is he? He's a deep threat. He's a speed guy. He's an explosive guy. So does he make sense? Initially, it's like, yeah, of course he does. He checks every single box. The Broncos only have 4 receivers on their active roster. But then I take a step back. And personally, I don't think you're wrong either way. But personally, we're talking about a team that just can't keep guys healthy. To bring in KJ Hamler right now, I'm open to it, but I can't count on him even for this week or next week. He's just a guy that I can't count on anymore. Yeah,
and I think he's been recovering from, the heart condition that he found. So I don't know. I just don't know how ready he would be to come in this week and then play a full game on Sunday. I think it may still take time for him to get back to his full capacity. So at this time, I don't know if it would be the best fit. I do think he's a great player, but as far as the guys we have on our roster, I feel more comfortable like some of those guys stepping up and making plays.
Yeah.
I think there's enough depth in that room right now where they could just really hunker down and focus
got a little depth.
On a
little depth.
They have enough depth to really commit to the guys that are in that room who have been there, who've been putting in the work all off season. And I know KJ wanted to be one of those guys, and this is not his fault. But I want to see this team lean, like you said, a little bit more on Marvin Mims. They absolutely have to. Fingers crossed that Jerry Jeudy's back. If we see him, Marvin Mims, and Courtland Sutton on the field at the same time, I mean, there are big threats. Those are big receiving threats that this Washington secondary is going to have to account for. So I think the Broncos can win without KJ Hamler. I just really hope it's this week.
Yeah, and when the Broncos made that decision to move on from him, it just didn't feel. I know Sean left the door open to bringing him back, but it just didn't feel like they were going to bring him back. And kind of the way that I think they just wanted to be nice to KJ, and that was kind of a way of saying we need to move on, but we really like you as a person. So it's kind of an easy letdown, unfortunately. And unfortunately, on the other side of the ball, we talk about playmakers and explosive plays. Caden Sterns, outside of Justin Simmons, he might have been the guy to have the most explosive plays for this defense from what we saw in training camp, and just how when he's been on the field his first 2 years in the NFL, he's just made plays from forcing fumbles to getting picks. That was a guy that was doing it. And now the Broncos are going to be without him. How much does that hurt this team, missing the explosive plays? But on the other side, he was listed as a co-starter, so it's not like you're fully missing out on a starter.
I think you're missing out on him a lot. It's always tough when guys aren't able to reach their full potential. But you can see it so much, and I think that he's one of those guys that everybody was just excited for this year, because it felt like it was his year. The way he played in training camp, the way everybody in the locker room was talking about him, they were ready to see him go out there and shine. So it sucks that we're missing him, and I feel like on the defensive side of the ball, he might have been a bigger piece than Greg Dulcich was on the offensive side of the ball. Like, he was very important to that defense and was going to play a pivotal role. So that's a big loss. It's a big loss.
Yeah. I think, you go back to day one of training camp. He made the very first big play of camp.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like this I am here moment. Like, we'd all been waiting for him to come back from that hip injury. And because we remember the kind of playmaker he was before. And then for this to happen, I mean, we were just a couple minutes into the second quarter. Like, this happened so early in the year. It was such an extreme letdown. And I just feel for the guy. Like, this was the year that he was going to hopefully earn his big contract in the league. And the Broncos were going to give him every opportunity to prove that he deserved that big contract. And for this to happen to him so early, I mean, just ever, but so early, is just such a bummer. And yeah, I think it just makes the Kareem Jackson signing that much more important. And Kareem Jackson, as much as they were listed as co-starters, he did start the game. So we know really how the Broncos feel about this situation. But there were going to be packages that were specifically designed to have Caden out there and for Kareem to be out there. And so I just think this really changes things up because, who's behind Kareem Jackson now? Like, what's the depth at that position?
You're talking JL Skinner, a rookie.
Really
You're talking
young guy.
DTY, which the Broncos call him
Trouble.
Yeah.
Troubleman Trey?
But guys that haven't played.
Exactly.
And have not a lot of experience in the league, and you don't feel comfortable where if something were to happen to Kareem, them being out there. Now the secondary, which I really, you count on, obviously, Pat, Justin, Kareem. You don't worry about those guys.
Yeah.
Damarri, now you kind of need to maybe give some help to after what we saw, and I think teams are just going to continue to attack him.
Yeah.
We only have one hole in the secondary, and I still like Damarri's potential. I'm not counting him out by any means, but if you open up another hole at safety, then that could be tough. But maybe this is the one break that George Payton actually has had gone his way, is re-signing Kareem Jackson and just showing how important that is now.
He's not cursed.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, and it's tough. This time of year is always tough. All the injuries within the season usually happen in weeks 1 through 4. Like, guys usually don't get injured, especially season-ending injuries after that. It's like weeks 1 through 4, and then like the last game when everybody's kind of like out there, but they're not like giving it their all, or they're just kind of finishing the season.
Yeah.
So it's tough, man. You just pray that you make it through these first 4 weeks, because then after that, it's pretty much a guarantee that everybody usually stays healthy after that.
Man, that's fascinating. That's something I haven't thought about, but I'm sure as a player, you're thinking that definitely.
Yeah, because like it's just jumpstarting your body trying to get ready to play in a full game, and sometimes you feel like you're ready, and then everybody has to sit you down and say, nah, not yet, my man. So it's a tough time of the year.
Man, that's kind of a good reminder, though. Makes me feel a little better that maybe it's not going to be 2 injuries every single week.
Yeah.
Maybe just a couple in the first few weeks. And maybe something that's going to help the players with that is drinking some AG1. Get those 75 vitamins, probiotics, minerals in your body, including the adaptogens, which are going to help you. And the great thing about AG1, to get your day started off right, it's less than your cup of coffee a day, and all it takes is a little scoop in your water to start your day, to get your day going, and it's going to help in so many ways. And if you want to check out AG1, we'll give you a free year's supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by going to drinkag1.com/Broncos. If you go to that link, it's going to give you that discount applied already. That's drinkag1.com/Broncos to get a free year's supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs.
So AG1 is here to help before you get injured. But if you do get injured and you need to ease your pain, grab a bottle of Spirit Hound. It's award-winning whiskey, 2022 Whiskey of the Year, the London Spirits Competition. They sniff out the finest ingredients available for their whiskey, gin, and vodka from all across the state. If you bring in juniper berries to their Alliance Distillery, you get a free cocktail. They're available in 40 states. They have a new tasting room in the Highlands. Their whiskey, vodka, and gin can be purchased at stores across Colorado or order online to 40-plus states. Don't worry. You do not have to get a retriever to track down a bottle. Head over to spirithound.com for availability and details on how and where to buy.
Well, as they say, and I'm sure Sean's going to say today when we talk to him about these injuries, Next man up. That's the name of the game in the NFL and sports, and that's something that coaches just preach. And Broncos are going to need next man up because they've got a game in 4 days right now. And let's dive into this Washington Commanders team, right? That's what we're calling them now.
So weird.
Salute.
It blows my mind that some people wanted to go back to their old name, and there was like a petition that had over 100,000 signatures on to go back to that name. I get maybe going back to the football team because that's like unique. If you play
that felt
football
good.
and you're the football team, that's kind of a lame name, but fun name. But they're the Commanders now, I guess.
I think if they wanted to change it from Washington Football Team, they should have just changed it to Washington Football Club. For some reason, it sounds a little vintage and a little fun to me, like the Denver Broncos Football Club. Like we all know that that's theirs. I liked Football Team a lot better. Commanders, I was actually having this conversation with someone last night. I was like, just gives me like CFL vibes. You know?
You never want that.
Like the Elks, like the Edmonton Elks, like the Washington Commanders. They're just giving me CFL vibes.
Or if they're going to change their name, they should go Washington Team Football, so then it really is just WTF.
Yeah.
But I guess they have their things, their stuff together a little more now than they did in past ownership.
That helps.
So let's dive into this game because this team, it's crazy. When I talk to people, including myself, and you bring up the Commanders, everyone's just like, oh, yeah, win for the Broncos. And it's like, yeah, it probably should be a win. Vegas right now saying Broncos are 3.5-point favorite. The Commanders were 8-1 last year. They were better, significantly
Their defense has been
better
good
than the
for
Broncos.
a
Their
long
defense
time,
has
actually.
been really good for a long time. And the way I kind of view them is the 49ers light. Now, maybe very light, but also like maybe just a little light. It all depends on the quarterback, just like
does.
any team. But you look at the 49ers, they are stacked across that defensive line and front seven.
Yeah.
Commanders have done the exact same thing. They're paying like $80 million almost to their defensive line. Number one highest paid defensive line. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you look at the 49ers, they've have so many weapons. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, they've got some running backs, tight ends. I mean, they have some weapons. Again, light. And then they're kind of going the way of the 49ers with the quarterback situation.
Sam
A
Howell.
fourth-round pick, kind of trying to see if an under-the-radar guy is going to make it. So this is certainly not a gimme, especially if you can't beat the Raiders at home. Beating the Commanders is not a gimme by any means.
Yep.
So let's dive in to this Commanders team and get to the keys of the game. Let's jump into a little Whiteboard Wednesday to break down how the Broncos come away with a win here. And let's jump into our first one. Light it up. And I'm not talking about checking out our friends over at Kind Love because the Broncos kind of did that last week. They took the slow, mellow approach down the field. 13-play drive, 14-play drive, 8 minutes. No, I'm talking about the opposite. You want to light the fuse.
Yep.
You want to get the fireworks going. But you can't get the fireworks going if you're not lighting up the fuse. Like the firework is not going to explode if you don't light the fuse. So you got to try. And that was just the most frustrating thing from the first game was they didn't have explosive plays because they didn't even try.
Yeah.
Like you can't. What is it? You miss every shot you don't take.
Yep.
The Broncos didn't take any shots, so they missed them all. Outside of the one to Courtland Sutton, which was an incomplete pass, or I'm sorry, which was drew a defensive pass interference. So it actually was a successful one. And you look at the Cardinals or the Commanders game. They just played the Cardinals. The Cardinals didn't have any explosive plays either. They didn't even try for explosive plays against the Commanders, and they put up 16 points. In fact, their offense only put up 9 points because their defense scored. The Cardinals' defense scored, and they only had 2 explosive plays. The Cardinals, 29-yard and a 31-yard play, which just shows that the Commanders are too good of a defense to give up points by slowly letting you go down the field. They're just not going to give up points that way. And the Broncos only had 2 plays over 20 yards. They had a 20-yard play and a 21-yard play. Not as bad as it gets from an explosive. So the Broncos have to try deep plays this game.
Yeah, I think last week they were trying to light the fuse with the 2-stick method. Rubbing that stick together. This week, they need to bring out the flamethrower and start taking some shots downfield. We have the players to do it. And with an explosive guy like Jerry coming back, I think this is a great week to start dialing up some down-the-field routes. Flea flickers, I don't mind. Double passes, I don't mind. Whatever you like, man. Just put it together and, let's get some shots down the field.
Do we think last week's approach says anything about what Sean Payton truly thinks about Russell Wilson, though? he put him in position to succeed by just dinking and dunking his way down the field, right? 27 to 34 is almost 80% completion percentage, 177 yards. The 177 yards is a bummer because obviously that's what happens when you dink and dunk. But at the same time, after that game, there wasn't a single person in the comments section being like, this game, Russ totally shit the bed. Like, this is all his fault. Not a single person said that. We're all talking about how Russell Wilson made strides. But he was in a position to literally just be a game manager and not Hall of Fame Russell Wilson, let Russ cook, right? So what would we rather see? Us, have a game where they score 16 points and the Broncos defense comes out and plays how they're supposed to play and they hold the other team to 10 points and that's how we walk away and we're just like, all right, like gritty win. Thanks, guys. Or do we want to take the risk and put Russ out there to, throw bombs? I say yes, 100%. But what does it say about how Sean Payton thinks?
It's a great point. I think it shows exactly what Sean Payton thinks about Russ. He doesn't want him taking those chances. He wants to, maybe that was just a slow play. Russ, let's build some confidence for you. Show that you can still do this. Take pressure off of you so that fans aren't blaming you after the game. And that's the way to build confidence. But then you have to build off of that. Right. And I'd way rather see Russ this week come out, throw for 64% completion and 300 yards than, again, this 80% completion, 177 yards, because Josh Dobbs did this exact same thing last week with the Cardinals against the Commanders. He threw for like 77% completion. We're talking Josh Dobbs, 77% completion, which is incredible, 133 yards.
Yeah.
What's that going to do? Probably going to do nothing.
Yeah, that's not going to cut it. And let me ask you guys a question. You guys are at training camp almost every day and definitely seeing Russ. And do you guys feel comfortable in his deep passes? Is that something that you guys feel like he was on point with all camp, that you would want to put in 10 deep passes a game?
No, he was not on point. And so it's probably not 10 deep passes, but you got to try. You got to try, right? A couple. And yeah, I don't think they're going to be airing it out like crazy, because maybe Sean Payton's afraid Russ is going to be Josh Allen that we saw on Monday night, where it's just like 500 balls left and right. And if that's what Sean's thinking, then no wonder he put in this game plan of just dinking and dunking.
Yeah, I also wonder less about Russ even. Is your offensive line ready to go? Like, these guys are going to have to hold up and protect for a lot longer if we're waiting for guys to get downfield. And is the offensive line good enough right now? I mean, I think they played really well.
I think they played well on
Sunday. They did, but because he was dinking and dunking. He was getting rid of the ball really fast.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
It made everyone look acceptable.
Right.
That was the game plan. Because look at this. We're not talking about the offense being bad on Sunday. We're talking about the defense this week. So, like, it worked.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Let's hope this was just a little confidence boost from Sean Payton.
Okay.
We're going to help the offensive line look good. We're going to help Russ look good.
Do what you got to do, Sean.
And then next week, let's not wait too long, though.
Yeah.
And then next week. And let's not wait too long to get to the next key of the game, which is Jerry.
Yeah, we're not talking about who's the baby daddy or not. We're talking about Jerry Jeudy. I think this is going to be a great week for Jerry to come back. You miss his big playability, talk about light it up being the first key. I think this is totally Jerry's game to light it up. I think they'll give him chances. Hopefully against his secondary, I don't see any major threats that I feel like can really keep up with Jerry Jeudy. So I think him having Courtland out there, his presence will make a huge difference to this Broncos offense. And hopefully we will see more big plays. And maybe not, maybe it still will be dipping and dunking the ball all over the field, but Jerry's that kind of player that can take a 5-yard slant and turn it into 25.
Yeah.
So I think his presence is going to give us the explosive plays that we need.
If Jerry Jeudy's out there, if Jerry Jeudy catches the ball, he's going. He's getting those yards after the catch. He's getting those yards after contact, because there's nobody that has better legs, better feet in the league than Jerry Jeudy. It's just always, can we get the ball from Russ to Jerry? So
it's a good point. And I think Marvin Mims and Jerry Jeudy have the same explosiveness with their ball in their hand. But there's a big difference is last week Sean told us that he's not fully comfortable with Marvin Mims, only playing 27% of the snaps. With Jerry, if he's playing, he's going to be out there 90% of the snaps. I mean, Lil Jordan Humphrey had the second most wide receiver. He's a practice squad receiver, and he was on the field 70% of the game. Jerry's going to be way above that, I would think. And then so he's just going to have way more opportunity. He's going to be so key to turning this offense into explosive plays.
Yeah, and it changes how you game plan against the Denver Broncos. Now you have to account for Jerry Jeudy. Now you may have to double him, and that leaves Courtland one-on-one, which I believe is a favorable matchup against any corner in the league.
Yep.
It maybe will allow Troutman to be on a linebacker versus a safety. It kind of just changes the game. So there's so much that goes into one big-time player not being out there, and I think his presence is going to do wonders for this Broncos offense.
What are you saying about linebackers and coverage, Todd?
What do you mean? Linebackers are great in coverage. But I'm saying that the Commanders' linebackers are trash, so we need to go against them. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. Let's get to the next key of this game. It is behind Bieniemy lines.
I thought this was
good.
So clever. I don't know why I just was laughing just hysterically when I wrote this into the old
so
Slack. So yeah, I truly believe that this is a huge week for this Broncos pass rush, because coming off of a game like they did on Sunday, when the expectations were so high after what we saw from them in training camp and preseason, it was such a letdown. And the lack of pressure on the quarterback was one, if not probably one of the greatest reasons why this team lost on Sunday against the Raiders. I think right now the Broncos really need to focus on getting off the field on third down. And by doing that, they need to win first and second down this week. And they need to force Sam Howell to throw the ball on third down and then get after him. Like last week, Sam Howell, he was under pressure on 13 dropbacks. 46 of those pressures turned into sacks last week. He was sacked 6 times against the Cardinals.
Dang.
And the offensive line was credited for actually 5 of those. And specifically, their right tackle, 25% of those pressures were on the right tackle. So this is a big week for Randy Gregory. It's a big week for Nick Bonito. I think Sam Howell, he threw for just 45 yards and an interception when he was under pressure. And when the pocket was clean, he threw for 157 yards.
Alexa's bringing the facts.
I went deep into PFF looking at these numbers last night because I was just really curious on how Sam Howell plays under pressure. And he doesn't play well, just like most quarterbacks, right? I mean, there's some guys like the Patrick Mahomes of the world who can, get out of anything and make an amazing play. But I just really think that Sam Howell, if anybody, he's a young guy. He's someone that you can, intimidate early, get him on his heels. And this is a big week for Randy Gregory and Nick Bonito and really the entire Broncos front seven to really get after him.
When you think of both of you, when you think of the Cardinals pass rush, which was getting after Sam Howell last week, who do you think of?
No, Isaiah Simmons, and he's not even there.
I think of Isaiah Simmons, J.J. Watt, and Zach Allen.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys aren't even on the
there.
team right now. So, I mean, if they're destroying the offensive line and getting after Sam Howell, if the Broncos aren't able to, I mean, I'm already worried about the pass rush. Oh, it's going to be full panic mode after this week.
Absolute meltdown mode. I think the fan base is going to be melting down. I think George Payton is probably going to be like, oh, no, what's going on? Yeah. There's that Bradley Chubb trade coming up again. Like, nobody wants to hear about stuff like that anymore. And what would be the easiest way to ensure that no one's talking about the past anymore is for the present and the future to look better than the past, right?
Yeah.
And they haven't yet.
Yep.
That's where we're at.
And if people, if this does happen and people are freaking out, they'll need to light it up and visit our friends over at Kind Love to take a chill pill. And our friends over at Kind Love, they've got all the types of flour, but they've also got the Turbo Core line, which is the stuff that packs a punch. And you can actually find their Turbo Core line at over 100 stores around the state. Just look for the Kind Love flour and Turbo joint lines that are sold in over 100 stores around the state, because that's what packs a punch. And you can also find Kind Love's products beyond just the Turbo Core, which they have their full integrated seed to sale, which is their version of farm to table when it comes to cannabis. And you can get all of their products 25% off if you visit their store in Cherry Creek or North Denver by using the code DNVR. That's code DNVR in their store in Cherry Creek or North Denver to get 25% off, or visit them online at kindlove.com.
And if you go to Kind Love in preparation for this weekend and you're ready to light it up on your couch Saturday for some college football, Sunday for the NFL, you guys know how to stream it all. Fubo TV. I am a Fubo TV user. I'm a huge fan of Fubo. And right now, of course, they're running this FuboTV.com/DNVR. You guys can get 15% off of 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, news. You could stream live TV from any device, and you could watch the most Colorado sports for the lowest price. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, were the Nuggets on there?
Yeah.
The Nuggets are on there.
Yep.
So
Nuggets,
that's
Avs.
get ready because that's coming up.
It's a little cheat code to watch these teams.
You need that cheat code if you're not going to be at the DNVR bar. That's for sure. No contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up, start watching. 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. And truly, like I said, this is my favorite way to watch TV. Even when I was on TV, I didn't have cable. Like when I was on cable TV, I didn't have cable. I had Fubo. So I'm a huge, huge fan. College football, Pac-12, University of Colorado stuff. I mean, ride with the Buffs, obviously. U.S. Open tennis, Broncos, the Ryder Cup. My guy Zach Johnson, the captain this year. Super excited for that. I let you guys know I love golf. So watch all of your favorite sports, news, all your channels. FuboTV.com/DNVR. Sign up. 15% off of your first month of Fubo Pro.
I love it. I love it. And I love the listeners tuning in. Hit us with a thumbs up on YouTube. Really helps us out. It's free. Also, hit us with a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're getting to 1,000 reviews on both of those.
Totally.
So let's hit 1,000 soon. And let's get back into our keys to this game. The next key is M&M. This one's pretty obvious. Marvin Mims. Get him on the field. We've already talked about him. I don't need to preach on it too much more. But Marvin Mims, you need those deep plays. But also, I think Marvin Mims is a guy that is just an all-around good receiver. You mentioned Jerry being able to catch a 5-yard slant and turn it into a 90-yard touchdown or a 25-yard play. That's something that Marvin Mims can do. But you got to get the ball in his hands. And speaking of his hands, the one catch he had might have been the catch of the game in that Broncos game. It was like a 4-yard completion, but he was fully extended, and Russ just threw a dart in his hands. The ball just stuck on his hands like he had tar all over him. It was a really good catch. So I think Marvin Mims is a guy that can be trusted anywhere on the field as well. So I want to see more Mims, even if Jerry's back. Courtland, Marvin, Jerry, that's a way to get one-on-one coverage on Jerry, on Courtland, and then just also spread the field a little bit.
I think he's good. He's a rookie, so I think it always comes with the, you got to build that trust factor. And I don't know,
Sounds like Hank.
Normally Sean, likes rookie wide receivers, so I don't know what trust he's still working on with him, but it does seem like there's a little bit more of a trust factor that he wants to get comfortable with him. But I think he's a great receiver. I think he has the potential to be good. So let him go out there and play and see what he does. I think I'd rather use him and see what he has than leave him on the sideline when we are lacking in big plays. So Eminem, let's do it.
Do you think we can get Marvin Mims Sr. on the show?
Oh, we might be able to.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be kind of fun. He was a huge fan of yours when we saw him at training camp.
Yeah, we'd love to have him on the show.
That would be fun. Hey, we're throwing that out there. Marvin Mims Sr.
I love it.
Give us a DM.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. I also love this next key to the game, which is here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah, a little classic movie throwback there. Was that Casablanca?
I didn't pick it up. I don't know.
Yeah. This is of course me being an old soul. That's where that's coming from. But Damarri Mathis, everyone's looking at you, kid. Everyone is looking at you this week to bounce back. Washington, they're looking at you because they think they can pick on you again, like the Raiders did last week. And you guys know the stat line by now. Targeted 9 times, gave up 8 receptions for 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. A guy that we didn't really talk about last week, Jacoby Myers, just had himself an absolute day. And we all know Damarri Mathis. He knows that he had a bad game. And it wasn't the first time Damarri Mathis has been picked on. We remember his first start as a Denver Bronco. He had those 4 defensive DPIs, 2 of them which were legit last year against the Chargers. He had a really rough game, and he came back throughout the rest of the season, and he was prepared. You can tell. He wasn't going to let his first start in the NFL haunt him for the rest of his career or the rest of that season even. I need him to have a much better game this week. And I think Washington, they have some really sneaky wide receivers, like you had mentioned.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about him going up against Jahan Dotson because Here's a little fun fact about these guys. So these guys have seen each other before. And when it comes to a young corner in the league, like they are just looking for familiarity. They just want to go up against a guy who they know just something about. These guys came out in the same draft class. Dotson, first rounder, we all know, but out of Penn State. Damarri Mathis, he went to Pitt, came out. They faced each other back in 2019. And Damarri Mathis, he held him to 2 catches for 21 yards, no TDs, had a really beautiful PBU on a really deep ball to Dotson late in the game. So I am
You have done your research,
I was ready
Alexis.
for today. I'm going all in on Damarri Mathis to have a huge bounce back game this week. I know people in the building trust him. It was just a bad first outing for him. Don't stress about Damarri Mathis. He's going to be fine.
It's so important to remember the mental side of Damarri and how he was able to come back from a really bad game last year, his first game, and play well throughout the rest of the season. Now he's going to have to do the exact same
thing
after the first game this season. And another thing with Damarri, if Pat Surtain can shut down Devontae Adams, I'm fine with him one-on-one. You don't need safety help. You don't need anything on Pat's side the rest of the season. So maybe against Tyreek Hill, just because Tyreek Hill's that fast. But certainly not this week, even with Terry McLaurin. So put Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, linebackers, everything shaded toward Damarri Mathis's way just to help him out. Even though I think he's going to have a bounce-back game, just don't put him in a situation where he can get beat again left and right.
Yeah, they need to do the most that they can to help him out. I think he's a great player, and he definitely can go one-on-one at times when he's at his best. I feel like they need to assist him, though, because it was tough last year at times. And as we all saw on Sunday, Pat Surtain has taken another step to make himself even better. So they're really not looking on that side at all. So, you're going to have a lot of reps all year long, and I think it's going to be a good year for you to just continue to hone in and be your best. So I look forward to him bouncing back. I don't think he'll stay down in the dumps.
Yeah.
And I don't think guys like Justin and the rest of the team will let him. So he'll definitely bounce back.
Alexis, I need help. You need to say that line how it's said in the movie. People are just killing me over it.
Oh, it's like, here's to looking at you, kid.
Yeah, that
Here's
was much
looking at
better.
you, kid.
That was
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
All right, this next one. Maybe I'll let Todd read this next one so I don't butcher it. It is. I
Christmas in September.
think I could have got that one.
Yeah, I think
that
you
one
could've
was
got that one for sure.
You
for sure.
nailed it though, Todd.
Yeah, but I think this is, can be like a Christmas game for the Broncos. A lot of gifts going around. I think Sam Howell will give you a chance. He threw an interception last Sunday, and it was a wobbly ball, maybe tipped at the line. We talk about tips and overthrows as a defense. That's how a majority of picks come. So I think he's going to give you guys a chance to make some plays. So all you got to do is catch it, man. Grab your gift, open it up, take it to the house. I was conflicted on this title because I wanted to make it like pictures, like something to do with pictures and a party in the end zone, because I really feel like this will be a good week for the Broncos to have a pick six and make some big plays, because Sam's going to give you a chance. It's all about you just stepping up to the plate and making it happen. Sam
Howell, when was he drafted? Last year. So what was it? 4 years ago when he was a junior or a sophomore in college at UNC. A lot of people thought he was going to be the number one pick when he was first eligible to come out of the draft, because he's got a lot of talent. He's got the brains for this position, but he fell all the way to the 4th round because of exactly what you just said. Todd, he makes boneheaded decisions, like 2 of them a game.
Yep.
And if you take advantage of those, then he's going to have a really bad game. And that's not worth of the first overall pick in the draft, Don. If you don't take advantage of those, he's probably going to have a really good game the other 95% of the times that he throws the ball. So if you take advantage of it, the Broncos are going to win. If you don't, it's going to be a really close game.
Are we thinking K-Jack with another pick this week?
Oh.
Do you like 2 in a row from Kareem?
Maybe Alex Singleton, instead of batting one up, he comes down with one?
I like that. He had the most pressures this week.
Singleton?
Yeah.
That's wild.
They were
I
blitzing
wasn't
him.
expecting that. Yeah, they were blitzing him, but I wasn't expecting Singleton to be.
Is that a
be
good
the
thing
guy.
or a bad thing?
Yeah,
What do
look,
you think? An inside linebacker having the most pressure
Yeah.
on the team.
Vance is blitzing both those guys a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. And usually, as a linebacker, you're blitzing one-on-one with a running back. So I expect them to win those matchups. So, just all throughout preseason, we saw Josie coming, Alex. Wait, time out. We saw Josie getting sent on blitz as well as Alex being sent on blitz. I didn't like the way I phrased that the first time. So, yeah, I expect them to have a lot of blitz packages and win one-on-one matchups against running backs.
Yeah. And, man, Alex was all over the field. He was causing interceptions in the secondary. He was blitzing. He was making tackles. I believe in Hank's game grades, he got an A+.
Yeah,
best player on the field.
He plays with his hair on fire.
He does.
Like, literally. His freshly washed hair, which we learned during the pregame show. He washes his hair every game day, but he washes it just so he can light it on fire. I don't know if it's more flammable after he washes it, but yeah, the guy, he's a madman, like lunatic. In the best way possible.
I think he would agree with you.
Yeah,
I think he
totally.
appreciates that comment.
For sure.
And last key to the game, sweat the big things. And the Commanders have some big dudes up front on their defensive line. And maybe the one you need to sweat the most is Montez Sweat, because Montez Sweat had 1.5 sacks this past game and 2 forced fumbles. And he's just one of their guys who had big games and can have big games any single week. Jonathan Allen, on top of Montez Sweat having 2 forced fumbles and 2 sacks. Jonathan Allen had the highest pressure rate this past week in the entire NFL for an interior defensive lineman. And Daron Payne, who's getting paid $25 million a year, he had 2 tackles for a loss in this game. The Broncos did a great job against Max Crosby this past week, only giving up 1 sack. Now they have a much different problem where it's not all on one guy. It's 3 guys, and they're not on the edge. They're in the interior of the offensive line. So Lloyd Cushenberry, Ben Powers, Quinn Miners, these guys are going to have to step up with the outside guys helping them out too. But this is a game where if the Commanders win this battle, Russ could be getting sacked. Russ could be making bad decisions. Russ could be scrambling, turning into really bad plays. These guys need to hold up, and maybe just a key is doing what Josh McDaniels does. Just get the ball out super, super quick, which doesn't really lead to...
So do you want to light him up or what?
Which doesn't lead to explosive plays. So Sean's going to have to get in his bag, because this is not a game where you're throwing the ball deep 15 times.
Yeah.
But you still do need to take shots. But this defense is scary up front. And that's not even mentioning Chase Young, who is the highest drafted guy among all of these guys, number 2 overall pick. He didn't play last week. Questionable for this week, which is a little... I'm not sure if he's going to play, but even if he doesn't, they've got 3 dudes up front.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to light it up? Do you want him to take the quick dump?
Yeah, you still have to. What you need to do is you need to get Russ on the move a lot more. He can't just be sitting in the pocket. And Russ did a really good job last week of when he had to move, he was able to move outside the pocket and not just scramble in a way where he couldn't see the field. He was jogging to the side, escaping the interior pressure, and he's just going to... I think Sean needs to not wait for that pressure to get there. Sean should just put him on the move often.
On some sprint outs.
Yep, exactly.
Like just start the play off with the whole offensive
100%.
line, everybody moving to the right or to the left to get Russ comfortable. And it's a lot harder for those big men to first get through the O-line and then also have to move laterally with Russell Wilson. So I think that's a good game plan, and it does open up more shots downfield. It takes a little bit more time to get to the sideline when you have those sprint out plays.
Jimmy G did that on that 4th and 1 on that first drive. And Jimmy looked uncomfortable doing that. That's not his game. I think that is where Russ thrives. That's where he's so comfortable.
And you look at how much time he had. There was so much time. The first play wasn't there, and then Devontae Adams was able to leak out and get open because there was so much time. Nobody could get through on that sprint out. So, yeah.
This could
Never thought I'd say, let's take a page out of the Jimmy G Las Vegas Raiders book, but no, well.
This could lead to a little Jaleel McLaughlin, too, because Javonte Williams, Samaje, they're really good between the tackles. This game, you're going to have to get all the running backs outside of the tackles just because those 3 guys in the middle are going to really eat this up. But Jaleel, the best of those 3 at getting outside and making plays, that's a guy who can get outside the tackles and make plays. Let's get him on the field. I know they got him on the field that one drive, but... what was there? 2 penalties on the Broncos, and then Jaleel caught a screen and was immediately tackled. He couldn't do anything. It wasn't his fault at all. It just happened to be bad timing with the way the game lined up.
Yeah, he's a good player. And like you said, I definitely am not running any dives or powers this week. We definitely have to switch it up, put some tosses in there, some toss cracks. and maybe work the perimeter of the defense.
I feel like Jaleel and Javonte have really similar games too. Like, and to me, like, I just want to see a guy like Jaleel out there a little bit more. And you know, I've said this before, like, cut a rug a little bit, like, show your speed, because he is speedy, he is shifty. And I think that he can really be a dynamic playmaker, and we're going to need one of those. When I was watching the film of the Washington Commanders game versus the Cardinals, the entire time I was just like, damn, like, this front seven for them, well, it wouldn't even be front seven for 7, 8, 9, front 9 for them.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Look at me trying to do math on the fly.
That was impressive. That was impressive.
Like, their front 9 is really good. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is where Sean Payton makes his money, being the offensive genius that he is figuring out how to beat these guys.
Yeah, it's true. And what's awesome, I woke up this morning and I thought, we've got football again tomorrow. Thursday Night Football tomorrow. If you want to get in on the action, check out our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Eagles-Vikings tomorrow. Guess the line. It's in Philadelphia.
Eagles lines.
I'm sorry, Vikings, Eagles. Vikings coming off a loss at home to the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield. Eagles 1-0. They just beat the Patriots on the road.
4.5.
4.5? Alexis, what would you guess?
3.5.
6.5.
Wow.
Yeah, Vegas
That's the wrong way.
isn't seeing a very close game here. And if you want to get in on the action, check out our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. They did a really cool thing. I had a bet this past week that there would be at least 3 touchdown passes between Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. We know that didn't happen. I don't even think there was 1 touchdown pass between those. But because Aaron Rodgers got injured on the 4th play of the game, they said, we feel bad for you. We're going to give you your bet back. So they gave me my money back. So DraftKings got some goodwill there. And if you want goodwill, go to DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that code DNVR to get $200 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet after using the code DNVR when signing up. That's code DNVR over at DraftKings Sportsbook to get $200 in bonus bets after placing a $5 bet. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code DNVR. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE-NEW YORK 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See sportsbook.com/football terms for eligibility. Terms and responsibly gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
And if you're watching the game on Thursday night, you need to make sure you're watching it and you're drinking a Breck Brew. Breck Brew is the official beer of DNVR. They cannot be beat. They're the best in town. Go to breckbrew.com for the beer locator. Breck Brew has been doing it for over 32 years, and it all comes down to their love and passion for making good beer. They have 100% renewable energy. They try some of our new flavors, the Mile High City Golden Ale, the Christmas Ale, the Buddy Pass, the Avalanche, Amber Ale, which is for the Avs, the Vanilla Porter Jr., which we can all know who that's for, is for the Nuggets, Broncos Country Pale Ale, and that's, of course, for the Broncos. Go to breckbrew.com, check out the beer locator, and find where to get your Breck Brew.
All right, and I've got to give a shout-out to our friend Philip Hable for rocking and rolling with us. We really appreciate your support, and thanks so much for tuning in. You're an awesome part of this community. So shout out to Philip, and shout out to the comment section. Hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in. We've got a lot of people tuning in that have not hit us with a thumbs up. And let's hop into the comment section. Speaking of the people, Alyssa, do we have any super chats? Okay, we do have comments on the website, so let's jump in. Buckeye Bronco says, Todd, we need you to pep talk this Broncos team again ASAP. Is that legal during a game?
I don't know.
I don't either. He says, I'm
out
personally fed up with this last year or so with someone always saying we are a step or a play away from being great. Am I alone on this? I do believe in Coach because even though we lost, it still felt different. Well, thanks for the great pod and always live, laugh, and Breck Brew. Does anyone give a pep talk before the game?
Usually a player. As we do the warm-ups, after we leave warm-ups, one guy will come up and talk. And kind of
In
hype
the
the team
locker
up.
room, or like we saw you
like
doing in Kansas City?
yeah,
the
like
clip?
what I saw. And if it's like If it's an important game, somebody will choose to do it then too. But I wouldn't say every week somebody just comes and talks to the team. Maybe the coach does before we head out.
Especially like right before a game, it would never be someone from the outside, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Maybe you'd be the first one.
I would sign up for that. I feel like I
Kind of
can
on
get
the
the guy.
inside though, Area 51.
Yeah.
Like,
Get the
he's on
guys
inside.
hyped.
It's
Who
true.
knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dress up in an alien costume.
No,
and
that
go-
wouldn't. They'd be like, "Hey, get this guy out of here, man." No, but to your point, I think we are or have been talking about being one step away for a long time. I think that's very frustrating. I think it's one thing to feel like everything's going wrong and we should just clean house and start over, but to feel like you're so close and can't figure it out, I think that's even more frustrating. To lose by 1 point in a game that you should have been winning or you could have found ways to dominate, it's frustrating. So I'm right there with you, man. I'll see about talking to the team before the game. I'll see what I can do.
You know some people.
I think I know a couple
You
guys.
do. Foco Buff says, just wanted to say I'm so appreciative of DNVR getting me through this week and last year. I just moved to Colorado from Kansas City, and after they won the Super Bowl, all I heard was fireworks and screaming, and it was a nightmare, even though Henry enjoyed it, LOL. DNVR really got me through a tough season. After 4 years of religiously listening to the pod, I finally became a diehard. Go Broncos. Well, welcome, Foco Buff, and so happy to hear that. Also, Foco Buff, Fort Collins Buff. How about that oxymoron?
Yeah, I was like, who are you? You can't be both. You can't be both, especially not this weekend. I can't lie. If you see me a little distracted, I just got a text saying, I thought my ticket for the CUCSU game, we were going as like a birthday party bus, the whole thing.
Ooh.
I thought somebody else had purchased all the tickets for us together, and I was just like, I owed somebody
Yeah.
200 bones. They're like, hey, do you have your ticket for the game? And I was like, no, I thought
Oh,
this happened.
no.
I am not missing this game. Like, you do not understand. It's going to be a blowout, which I can't wait. But
It is.
I'm not missing this game. So I was trying to buy a ticket really fast. And shocking, Ticketmaster, it's trash.
Yep. So you haven't,
I
secured?
literally have tried it twice, and it's just like, fail, unknown
my
error. And I'm like, you know
gosh.
what?
Gotta check
Now
out
I
Game
understand why Taylor Swift hates you. I'm actually on
yep.
game time right now. Literally, like,
That is not a good text to get.
I'm on
Not
Game Time.
a good text to
I'm
get.
on Game Time. I know what to do. I just
Tots.
clicked the first link, and I was like panicking.
Todd, since you were up at Boulder, did they hook you up?
With tickets?
Yeah.
I think if I reached out to them, I actually want to see about going to this week's game.
Yeah. Let's
I
go.
wasn't able to go last week because it was so early in the morning, but I want to check them out. I want to see how they do. I think it's going to be a butt whooping, so
Well, we have a
it'll
party
be
bus.
fun to see.
It's not going to be
But
close.
no
Come
tickets.
through. Apparently, no ticket for me. So
Just
whatever.
you. Well,
Yeah.
really enjoy the party bus then.
Yeah. So, anyways, Foco Buff. I mean, I don't know who you're rooting for this weekend, but you know which side's a good side to be on. So,
Well, there's a winning side and a losing side this week, that's for sure.
oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Onion Funyun Bronco says, name your top 3 favorite chips. They don't need to be of the bag snack variety. He'll go first. Chocolate chips, champion chips, and a chip on
Champion
the
chips?
shoulder. Honorable mention, Funyuns, he says, with love, Onion Funyun Bronco.
Oh, that's hilarious. Favorite? I'll just go with the bag variety. Hot Cheetos for sure. Top of my list. Can't go wrong with hot Funyuns. So maybe they're all hot.
Hot Funyuns.
Fire. Yeah, you're missing. You ever had them?
No, no.
So we got to get you on some shrimp and grits. And
Yeah,
hot
yeah,
Funyuns.
yeah.
And then probably last but not least, some the orange sun chips, orange or the red
Oh, yeah,
sun
yeah,
chips.
yeah.
yeah.
Sun
Fire.
chips have to be on this conversation.
Yeah,
You're
I
right.
used to get like every day it was like a religion. At the Broncos, every day for lunch, I would get a tuna melt made by Fredo. Shout out Fredo, who's the chef over there, and a bag of red sun chips.
Oh man, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
it was a phenomenal.
So you like the spicy chips?
Yeah.
Have you ever done the one chip challenge?
Yes. Well, I haven't taken the whole chip, but like me and
You
some of my
tried it?
friends did a piece of a chip.
Was it awful?
It was pretty hot. I played it off like, you know, like, but it was hot.
And that's the one where you just get literally one chip because it's that spicy.
Yeah, one black chip.
Oh,
Ooh.
the
Yeah.
fact that it's black, that's so wrong.
Was Wendy there when you were there
Wendy.
in the cafeteria?
Yeah, she was there.
Like, biggest personality, so fun. She makes the best Caesar wrap, like chicken Caesar wrap. She'll like mash up croutons and sprinkle them throughout, and then when you get them with like a side of chip, oof.
Man,
I miss you,
it is
Wendy.
noon, and now
I
we're
know, are we
talking
hungry?
Yeah, I'm getting
food.
hungry
Man,
already.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
I'm gonna have to stop by the facility.
Yeah, go see Wendy.
The Count says, to all the sky is falling Broncos fans, last weekend was host to the worst EPA per offensive play league-wide in 21 seasons. Relax. Things will improve. Also, Todd, what say ye about defenses starting to catch up to offenses? Seems like more big, athletic dudes are trending toward becoming outside linebackers and defensive linemen rather than offensive linemen, and thereby are starting to swing the tides in the trenches. Love the Count.
Yeah, I think that defense is where it's at. I think it's kind of like a trend that's been happening over time. Offense, I felt like kept getting like better and better because of the new rules. I feel like we always had talent on defense, but there were so many rules about defensive pass interference or touching or you can't touch the quarterback, but the head and neck area. Like there were so many different things that guys had to adjust to that I think defense had to take a step back and kind of learn how to play the game. I think now we are understanding how to attack quarterbacks, how to play good man coverage without touching somebody after 5 yards. So I think all those different rule changes are now finally catching up with the playing ability of the defenses.
Just off the top of my head, was the Chargers and Dolphins game the only game this past week where both teams scored 30 points?
Probably. I can
think
probably
it
tell you
was
really
that
fast.
just jumps out top of my head. And I feel like typically there's a couple of high scoring games,
Yeah.
but the fact that the Bills scored 16 points, the Chiefs scored 21 points, so many of these, the Bengals really struggled, especially in week one. On top of everything you said, Todd, but especially early in the season, defenses typically do get the better hand. And it's curious to see how much do the rest of the offenses wake up throughout the season.
Yeah, we'll see. It's
Did
a
you,
copycat league, so that's one thing you'll see like week in and week out.
Right.
All the plays that hurt you last week, they'll be running against you again, and sometimes they end up being scoring plays that eventually lead to higher scoring games. So
It's true. It's a good point.
Did you say where both teams scored over
Yeah,
30?
yeah.
It was. I was going to mention the Jags and Brandon McManus is 5 for 5 and all the points that he contributed this week.
I would like you to bring that up with Sean today.
Yeah, no, I'm not going out there today. I'm good.
Mile High Sing says, my comment is Nick Ferguson did a breakdown on Twitter on all 3 personal fouls the Broncos got called last Sunday, and there's evidence to support that the refs got the wrong calls. Do you think the refs in the league will call more calls like this on the Broncos because of Coach Payton's past history? Is the NFL out to get Sean?
I personally think that refs are human, so if they do have a vendetta against them, they're gonna call more plays. I don't know if they do, but I feel like they're people just like we are. And if they have a beef with him, maybe we do see it in the flag department.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, too, about the flags against the Broncos specifically, like I've been out at camp for numerous years, and you hear coaches having conversations with refs like, hey, like you tell me how I should coach this because how you call it is how I'm going to coach it, right? And so it's funny to see plays like where it's coached properly. Like Pat's, I am convinced was pure bullshit the other day. Like he did it the right way. He was looking for the ball. He was checking off all the little marks.
Devontae was all over him just as much as he was all over
Devontae touched him first.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be petty, but I'm like, he did it first. And I think he was coached properly, and I think the fact that he was called on that was complete BS. So, I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with Sean Payton. Maybe that has something to do with, like, Pat being so good. Like, how many flags are you going to throw at Pat Surtain this year? Might as well get one out of the way now. But, yeah, I don't know.
I have more of an issue with that foul or penalty than I do with the other two, the Justin Simmons hit and the Kareem Jackson hit, just because the NFL, it's no longer helmet-to-helmet calls that they're calling. They're calling just like if you go anywhere close, anything close to a quarterback, regardless, especially if they're kind of sliding. Like Justin did not go helmet to helmet. There's no doubt about that. But if you just get close to a quarterback, really after they've already kind of made their way down, they're going to throw the flag. And that sucks for a defense. I don't know how Justin's supposed to go about that, but that's just the new way of the NFL. And then Kareem's hit, just really any big hit close to a head. Again, they're just going to call.
Yeah.
It was something that a couple of years ago you would really fight, but now it's just like, damn, that's just the way the NFL is, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know if I love it. I mean, maybe you should slide earlier or don't slide head first because that doesn't feel like a slide. That feels like a dive. and have
Right.
to stop your momentum
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
point.
yeah.
So I think, like I said, I think offensive players should have some onus put on them about how they're protecting themselves as well. Like, it's not just on us to ease up and get out of the way when you are coming up on a first down and I need to stop you. Like, that's a tough position to be in.
Yeah, I think of that penalty in the Washington-Arizona game. You know, where it's gone viral this week where the ref just like throws the flag while he's sitting down. I mean, even that, like, when you see the defenders coming like in full speed, you're like, well, of course they hit him. Like, how was he supposed to slow up right there? Like the way that Sam like bent down and kind of like tucked into it. It's like, I don't know what you expect in a situation like that. Like, these are two human beings running full speed. Like, how's anybody supposed to slow up in time? So I don't know. The rules are.
Yeah, it stinks.
I know they're trying to keep everybody safe, but
last comment coming in from Nash Broncos says, Zach, my guy, open your eyes. You repeated over and over again the Broncos should have tried to throw it deep, yet the only true deep threat they had is a rookie in his first game. Do you really think the visor would put Mims in that position? As for the Drew Sanders talk, Hank and Todd are right, and the game plan kind of dictated the pass rush or lack thereof, and the coverage had to be better. Mathis is the weak link. Also, the reason Renfro was a non-factor was that he's saying Bassey played an incredible game and has gotten no credit for it. Yeah, Bassey really did have a good game.
Did have a good game.
And yeah, if you're going to have a player on your roster, especially Sean Payton has trusted rookie. He's had like 3 rookie receivers get 1,000 yards. And we're talking Michael Thomas was one of them, but he was a second-round pick. People view Michael Thomas now as like a top 5 pick. No, he's a second-round pick. You know what pick Marvin Mims was? A second-round pick. He had confidence in him. He also had confidence in Marcus Colston, who was a 7th-round pick. So, yeah, Sean has proven that he has trusted rookies right out of the gate. And then they also had Courtland Sutton, who's a deep threat. Isn't that maybe Courtland's best strength is a 50-50 ball?
Yeah, I think you're right. And you talk about those two guys. Those are both 2 big body guys. They're both taller wide receivers. So I think at some point he's going to use Courtland that way. I think we're just all waiting to see it. So, man, I'm waiting, hoping just like everybody else. So we'll see what happens.
No better time than now.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And are the Broncos going to beat the Commanders? We're going to give our picks tomorrow, so make sure to stay tuned to the DNVR Broncos podcast tomorrow. We're going live at 11 a.m., and, of course, you can get it anywhere you get your podcasts after the fact. Thank you all so much for rolling with us today. Todd, Alexis, it's been a blast. We'll see you tomorrow on the podcast.